Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of ARCS Behind the Driver. We have our first guest, Terry Freer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. That's all I can say. This whole podcast is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and sorry for everybody that's watching. I only have one monitor, so it takes me a second to get all this stuff together. But yeah, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I did it one or two episodes a long time ago. Kind of just fell off. This will be pretty much a weekly thing on Mondays around 7. Um, just talking to drivers, uh, not just in ARCS. I mean, obviously a lot of them will be drivers in ARCS, but just really just any drivers or anyone in the community as a whole. So something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time now, and so I decided to make it happen. So appreciate you being our first guest. Um, all the podcasts that we've done before, it's always a it's always a bunch of people, or seems like it's a bunch of people, and it's a lot of people talking, which is good. But this one's gonna be one on one, so a little more in depth. We'll try and keep it to 45 minutes to an hour. But appreciate you coming on, and obviously, we got a lot of history that we can talk about because you've been around for a while in ARCS. But I'll just kind of throw it over to you. Tell the people, who you are and where you live and kind of what you're what you're up to these days.
Well, I'll start with my name. My name is Terry Freer, also known as Runaway Mayo on the Xbox. Uh, I'm 28 years old. I live in Lapeer, Michigan, and I like to race. But obviously, a lot of us have to have a day job. So my day job is CNC machinist here in Lapeer, a couple miles away from home. Uh, and my other hobby, aside from racing, is working on motorcycles in my garage. That's about it, really.
Nice. Well, so we'll start from the beginning. Obviously, you were pretty much around from the very start. Just kind of tell us, how did you get into ARCS? Who brought you in? What's the story of how you found us and started racing with us?
So it all started in the pandemic in 2020. Um, I was home. I didn't have COVID, but I was home with another sickness for a couple weeks, so I was bored. And I downloaded NASCAR Heat 4 on the Xbox, started playing online, and one day I believe I got in a lobby with you, uh, Tommy Andrews, and Jaco. And had a bunch of fun. I think we did 3 or 4 races together that night, and then you guys had talked about wanting to do another race in a day or two. So I added Jayco as a friend so that I'd be able to find you guys, and the rest is history. I think the next race was Dover, and that was when I met Rick James, who is a very interesting guy.
Yeah, we all regret the day that we met Rick James, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I remember that. It's been a long time. It feels like it's been a long time ago. I mean, it really hasn't been in the grand scheme of things, but um, yeah, it was cool that you know something that was at the time kind of seemed scary with the whole pandemic, and it ended up kind of creating arcs. We didn't know that that was what was happening, but looking back, that was exactly what happened. So, um, yeah, it's just interesting to look back and think that just 5 or 6 of us have just running online lobbies on Heat 4. It turned into this massive, massive league that we have now. Um, we'll talk about a little bit. Um, Obviously, you were there for Heat 4, you were there for Heat 5. Um, your transition to iRacing, what did that look like for you? When did you make that transition, and how did it feel for you?
I made the transition in March 2021, not too long before we went to Bristol together. And the first month or so on iRacing, I was really discouraged because I was having such a hard time because it was so much different than the Heat games. I was constantly spinning out and not finding any speed when I wasn't spinning out in the corners. And for a while, I wanted to give up, and then eventually, different things had happened in my life, and I needed to take a step away. So I stepped away from league racing for a while and just focused on myself and honing my skill to at least have decent speed and not be spinning out, and just honing my racecraft a little bit before I decided I was going to try coming back and doing league racing again. And here we are.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty big jump. So speaking of Bristol, we got to bring up the story, and I know you know what it's about. It's about the Sour Patch Kids that you brought back to us when we all and Rick James was a big part of this. But if for anybody that doesn't know, um, Terry Freer, we all just call him Mayo. That's we stick to gamer tags a lot, especially from the OG people. Him and his, what was it, your drummer or your roommate Bobby
Yeah.
came down with you. It was I believe that was the first. Was that the first time we ever went on a trip together?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so we do an annual corporate trip, as Rick James calls it. It's basically just where everybody gets together and goes to a NASCAR race that's in ARCS. It's a lot of fun. We hang out, we go to the races, we drink, we have fun. We played flag or two-hand touch football at Bristol, which was not a good idea for a bunch of 30 and 40-year-old men that think that they can still play football. But the story that we're talking about is y'all went to what, like, y'all went to record somewhere, I think, or what was the
So I
story
have
there?
some friends that live in Hendersonville, North Carolina, that I went to high school with, and they're in a band. They have a recording studio in their basement. And every time that I travel out of state and go in that direction, I always make an effort to go hang out with them, at least for a day. So Bobby and I decided, since we were just a state and a half away, or whatever we were, that the one day that we had nothing going on, no racing or anything, we were gonna go hang out with them. And on the way down there, we went to Walmart, and I think we got two or three large bags of Sour Patch Kids. Bobby and I both like Sour Patch Kids a lot, and so do my friends that I was going down to see. And we never ended up eating any of them the whole time we were down there. So on the way back, we had to stop and get gas somewhere, and you guys wanted me to buy you guys drinks on the way back,
Correct.
and you were going to give me money when I got back to the house. But I did not do that, just because I have a set of morals that I like to stick to. I'm not a drinker. I don't like to buy people drinks and stuff like that, and I was just gonna stick to that. So I brought the 3 bags of Sour Patch Kids back instead.
Yeah, this man, we asked him to get us some beer. He brings back a 55-gallon drum of Sour Patch Kids. So, needless to say, we were all very uh, not happy at that moment. But worked out. I don't know. I think Jacket went and got us some beer at some point, so it ended up working out for us. But yeah, that's a story that we still talk about to this day. That we didn't get alcohol, but we got 15,000 pounds of Sour Patch Kids.
You can
So,
never have too much Sour Patch Kids. That's what we say
I
up
mean,
here.
I mean, yeah, it's depends on what you like, I guess. If you're an alcoholic like most ARCs, then Sour Patch Kids not the way to go. But hey, it is what it is. It worked out.
Yeah, it was still a fun time.
So another thing we got to talk about is we back when we were still in Heat 5, we had this like probably a couple months where it was like everybody seemed like they wanted to do these like 1v1s, and the ultimate showdown of 1v1s, I think it's probably still my biggest Twitch hit ever, was when you and Quiet 1v1'd at, I think it was Martinsville. Honestly, I'm not sure, but that was peak entertainment for everyone.
We won V1 like 100,000 times because I kept
Yeah,
having internet issues.
yeah, that was back in the lagging days, and I think we even named it Kevin versus Lag, um,
Yeah,
for that race. So yeah, how's your internet now? Is it a little bit better than it was back then?
it's a lot better. The only issue that I have now, uh, and I don't have no idea why, but every time I get into a lobby now, my ping goes through the roof while trading paints is loading everybody's paints in, and then it's fine. Um, so the whole in official races when we've got the 3 minutes of practice before qualifying, I can't do any of the practice because I blink so bad. But once we get through practice, it settles down.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have that same issue, that it's it's like as soon as Trading Paints finishes, the download of the cars, then it seems to, even out. But yeah, it's definitely an issue when they're trying to load, especially if you have a big lobby with 30, 40, cars in it. That's a lot for that's a lot for, your internet to load all at one time. So makes sense.
Yeah, I did have an issue with Thursday Night Thunder at Talladega a few months ago. In the middle of the race, it started blinking like crazy, and I actually found out after the race was over. Um, my Ethernet cable broke, plugged into my computer, so it switched over to Wi-Fi in the middle of the race while my friend was updating his phone. He
Mm.
just bought a brand new phone and had to download a whole bunch of updates, and that was what caused the issue there. Um, I have a new cable now, so we don't have that happening anymore. But besides that, I have a pretty rock solid internet now.
That's good to hear. I know that having bad internet is not fun, because I've dealt with that for a long, long time, and now that I relocated, I have the best internet I've probably ever had in my life. So I know the struggle there. So yeah, we'll have to see if we can't set up another 1v1 between you and Old Quiet. I think you'd probably take him to the woodshed now, but he thinks that you
Oh yeah,
wouldn't. But I think it would be a great thing to bring back. We always had a lot of fun. That's what I was talking to some people last night. It's you know, it seems like nowadays it's like it's so hard to have fun doing this anymore. I mean, I've joked about retiring. I joked at the end of last year saying I was going to retire and quit doing this, and man, it's just tough. Like it's just a different atmosphere, I guess, than where we started. Do you kind of feel that same way? Like it's a little bit harder to have fun, and it's like more of almost like a job, or you're not having as much fun as you used to when you started.
no, I'd say I'm still having just as much fun, if not more, than I was. Yeah, in the moment, we take it serious when we're in the middle of racing. we want to do good, and when we crash out, we're upset in the moment. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just a video game. It doesn't really matter. We're just racing for bragging rights, really. So, yeah, I get upset if I get crashed out in a race and don't get to finish. But then after a minute or so, it doesn't really bother me anymore because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter whether I crashed out or not.
Well, you're a better person than me, and maybe you just, I don't know, being, I guess, in charge probably has a lot to do with it too. Having to deal with things behind the scenes, being a driver, sometimes for me sounds like a whole lot of fun, but unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. So, it's good
It's
to.
still stressful being me, even though I'm just a driver. Because outside of ARCS, we do a lot of open setup oval racing. My team and I. So I'm really the only one that understands setting up an oval car on our team. So and we're all too cheap to buy setups. So I'm the one that's in charge of building everybody's setup.
Yeah,
So
I've had some bad issues with buying setups too, but that's a whole nother story. But tell us about your team. What are who is it? What is it? Where I know obviously everybody runs in different leagues. Even myself, I run in HTL, I run in ABN. Where does your team or where do you like other than ARCS? I mean, I know really you only run TNT. As far as ARCS goes. So what are you and your team running? At on different nights of the week.
I found them during my hiatus from ARCS in 2021. I went to a ARCA league called All American ARCA Series, and over there you have to be a part of a team in a team chat and everything. So as soon as I went in there, I started posting in there. I was looking for a team, and I mentioned I was really good at the big tracks, Daytona and Talladega and Michigan, all the real big high speed tracks. And Alex Harrington and Shane Gentry took me in for a team called Fan Fuel Motorsports. I raced over there for the remainder of 2021 to finish out their season. And then in 2022, Stephen Doughton decided that he wanted to make a open setup, nostalgic NASCAR league using the 87s and the ARCA car at the time. And so we jumped ship from All American ARCA and went over there for a while. Had some success there. We won the duel and the Daytona 500 in the 87s by a lot. We actually we led 47 of the 50 laps in our duel. I led 46 of those. And then everybody was upset when they found out how much rear spoiler I had on the car, and I still was faster than everybody. But so we raced there through 2022 and most of last year, and then the Gen 4, when we switched to Gen 4 instead of the ARCA car, we the open setup side didn't stick, so we folded the Gen 4 and we went back to All American ARCA, which is now All American Cup, and we ran the remainder of 2023 there, and now we have for 2024 we have rebranded. We are now Speedworks Incorporated. It's still me, Shane Gentry, and Alex Harrington. We are going to be running in an open setup Xfinity series called 5150 on Friday nights. And we are also going to be doing all of the iRacing special events except for the late model and dirt stuff. So we did the Daytona 24. We're going to do the Bathurst. We're going to do the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, all of the endurance races. So that's where we're at now.
How's y'all doing the 24-hour race?
We ran the Cadillac GTP and we finished 13th in our race.
Not bad.
We got as high as 10th, and we found out yesterday after watching qualifying for the real Rolex that I don't remember if it was our best lap time from the race or if it was our qualifying lap that we did, but we would have been fourth on the board for the GTP class in real life with our lap time.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have enough time on this podcast to talk about how my 24-hour race went, but well, we finished I think 15th, and but at one point Tommy Reynolds was in the lead by 50 plus seconds, and then Stitch got in the car, and then it went downhill from there. So yeah, it was not a great showing for us, and I'm sure Reynolds is probably pissed off about it, but it is what it
I'm
is.
surprised I didn't get burned out because leading up to the Rolex, I had an I rating of 440 in road
Mm.
2 weeks before the 24, and so I did a ton of grinding in the Formula V for 2 weeks, and I gained 1,000 I rating leading up to the 24,
Nice. Yeah,
and then
I didn't
yeah,
practice at all. I think I have 1200 road I rating, and I was like, whatever. I ran a few laps. We ran the BMW GTP, and it was slow. I don't think anybody. I think in the top split, like there was zero BMWs because no one wanted to race that car, so it was just didn't have as much power as the Cadillac and the Porsche GTPs, but
I
it was
couldn't even practice the car until a week before the race because I was waiting on pedals from Steven. My pedals broke for my Logitech set, so I had to remap my clutch pedal as my brake pedal
yeah, that
after it
doesn't
broke.
sound yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all.
So I could not practice the Cadillac at Daytona because I did not want to have to relearn all of my footing with the pedals after I adjusted to having to use the clutch pedal as my brake. I didn't want to have to relearn it again.
Makes
And then
sense.
I'm surprised that I didn't. Just, aside from just being burnt out from road, which I wasn't, I surprised I didn't get wore out physically. I had last year in the 24, we struggled a lot because I have in the last 2.5 years I've had three pretty serious back injuries. So sitting there doing road racing for 24 hours has been really hard. This year was actually really good to my surprise. But last year my stints were 1 hour at a time because that's all I could do.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that was really rough trying to schedule that.
those races are always tough, but they're a lot of fun for anybody that's never tried to run a 24 hour, especially at Daytona. The track's pretty easy. I mean, it's not, you run 5 or 6 laps at Daytona Road Course and you've pretty much got it figured out, especially since most of us being NASCAR and, motorsport fans, we've seen that track layout so many times. It's, pretty easy to learn it, so it's something that if you've never done it, I would highly recommend doing it just once, even if you don't finish well, it's still just cool that you're out there running, for 24 hours straight with other people. It's a pretty cool deal.
The one that I'm dreading, I'm excited for, but I'm dreading, is we're going to attempt to do the 24 hours at the Nürburgring this year, too.
Yeah,
So that's going to be.
y'all have fun with that.
I don't even have the track yet, so.
I think I have the track, but there's no way I would not. If I'm not familiar with the track, I can't do it. Like it's just
I mean, I was really good at it in Gran Turismo and Forza, so I mean, I'm familiar with the track, but driving it on iRacing is still going to be a totally different animal.
it is. Yeah, it's completely different for sure. But um, yeah. So obviously you're running in TNT this year. What's your expectations? What's your goals as far as TNT goes this year? I know first race wasn't the best, probably one of the worst TNT races we've had in shit, probably 6, 7 seasons, honestly. But
I'm pretty sure that was the most chaotic league race I've ever been in, period. that
yeah,
was,
it was rough, but it's not normally like that. I mean, it's every league has a hiccup. There were some new people in there. It's just the track was really really difficult in my opinion. It was just really hard to drive. But it was still fun. But when you put almost 30 people on track where it's really hard to drive, you kind of you kind of get that. But yeah, I mean, what's your expectations and goals for TNT this year?
I don't really have very high expectations, and not because the people that race in TNT are bad. Like I don't like racing around them. I love racing around everybody, and it's not that I'm slow either. I don't think I'm a slouch at some tracks. Obviously, there's some that I'm not that great at, so I'd be running in the back. But I think I'm just too nice. Uh, if I'm in a position where if I mess up even a little bit, it could wipe out the field, I try to get out of it instead of trying to stick through it and hopefully get a couple spots. Um, and that usually gives me a poor finish. I think that my finishes do not reflect my ability. I'm just too nice and try to watch out for everybody a little bit more, maybe more than I should.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm trying to change that a little bit, but it's hard to. I mean, it's just some people just drive like complete assholes, and that's on them. That's some people
Yeah,
just can do that. They can drive through somebody and not feel bad about it one bit. But I'm kind of the
I do
same
have
way.
high expectations for the super speedways and the road courses, but besides that, I'm perfectly okay being middle of the field or even worse anywhere else.
Hey, that's where
But
I'm at, middle of the field, towards the back. That's my specialty. So,
super speedways are those are my baby. I take those very serious.
yep. We got Rockingham next week or this week, and then I think we go to Daytona. So that should be fun. There's gonna be a lot of people, obviously. You know, some people that don't normally race. It's like super speedways always just bring people in. Even
Yeah,
I mean, some people that don't race, they'll just randomly show up for a super speedway. So kind of is what it is. But that's
yeah. My expectation of super speedways is as long as I'm not cleaned out by somebody, which does happen a lot, unfortunately, but that's just the way it goes. I'm always expect to see me by the end of the race up in the front. Uh, I tell the guys in ARCS when I first popped back in there that I don't know I don't mean this in a prideful way or anything because the stats don't lie, but you know, just look at the stats in DraftMaster, for example, and you'll see where I think that I stand in relation to everybody else.
yeah, super speedways are always a toss up. So there is some skill involved. Um, you know, I mean, honestly, out of my wins in arcs, probably half of them are at super speedways. So it's one of those things where you can win it all, or you can end up upside down in the grass. It just depends on how the race goes. Sometimes, unfortunately.
All of my league wins, except for when we first started out in the pandemic, was have been at Daytona. So
Daytona and Talladega are both good tracks. Well, two of my favorite, but it's also very frustrating sometimes because sometimes people wreck and there's nothing you can do. You're just involved in it. You just have to accept it.
yeah, it depends on the car too. Like I thought about running the Daytona 500 for A squared this year, but uh, one I don't have time on Sundays anymore to run A squared, and I cannot stand super speedway racing with that car.
Yeah, it's a little broken for sure, but it's a little bit better. It gets better, I think, every year, but yeah, it's definitely different than like a Gen 6 or a Xfinity car. It's you almost can't really push, and it's hard to get to the back bumper of the car in front of you. So it is frustrating sometimes with
And
that
the car
car.
is so twitchy, you can't really side draft either because it's so twitchy. You
Yeah,
could get into the guy.
yeah, with the steering pinion and not having an actual steering box like the other cars, it is tough. It's not easy for sure, but we have some good races in those cars at super speedways, but it's it's still tough sometimes.
Yeah, I probably would like the car better too uh, if there were more open setup leagues. I've ran open setup for the last year and a half, so I've really grown to like it. But
Mhm.
I understand not everybody wants to put the time in to build a setup, don't have the money to buy one, all that stuff.
Yeah,
So I understand.
a lot of people just prefer to have a fixed setup, and that way all you have to do is just practice, that setup that you're given. And we tried last year to buy setups, and then it was still fixed setups, but it was a built setup. Um, that didn't really work out well for us, so we went back to just iRacing fixed setups, and they're a lot better this year than they were last year. Last year, at the beginning of the year, they were horrible. They were just
Yeah,
awful, but they've gotten a little bit better. So, you know, you deal with what you got. That's what we do in ARCS. So,
yeah.
so
I don't understand how to set that car up anyway. There's all the independent suspension and all that. Just forget it.
yeah, I don't really either, to be honest. That's why we just said screw it. We'll run iRacing fixed setups, and if you don't like the setup, then too bad. You just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about um, so last year I left ARC's Discord as well for not quite as long as you did, but um, just kind of talk a little bit about you know what what made you leave, and then what kind of enticed you to come back, because that's something that me, obviously, as one of the owners. We only have two owners now. It's just me and Tom Sears. Everybody else has pretty much stepped down. But obviously, between me and Tom Sears, I've been kind of the president, kind of in charge of ARCS for pretty much since the start. Um, you know, I like to know, and that's kind of why I'm doing this podcast too, is just to get to know. Obviously I know you pretty well, but some of the new drivers, I want to get to know them. I want to see what they're all about, how they found us, what they thought was, you know, interesting about ARCS, but kind of talk about your um, leaving of ARCS, and then kind of what enticed you to come back and race with us again.
So this was actually I've left ARCS twice. The first time was just I had a lot of personal things going on that I needed to sort out alone. So I left league racing altogether. I left all the discords. I got off of Xbox actually and just did iRacing officials while I sorted out everything I needed to sort out in my personal life. Um, and then you and I had talked and said that I could come back for 2022 and start fresh with the league again for A squared. Uh, and I ran the first three races. Um, First race, I was a little there's a lot of frustrations that I had with not necessarily anything that any of the owners and administrators did wrong. It's just it was racing stuff. But there was just a lot of frustrations that I had at Daytona, the way that some things went down that really wasn't anybody's fault. And then I had a couple of run-ins with a few drivers in the races following, and uh, after those couple races, I didn't appreciate how I was being treated on the track. So I thought maybe I need to go find somewhere else, and let everybody here sort themselves out, and maybe at a later date we can come back and try again. Maybe it wasn't anybody else. Maybe it was just me. I wasn't ready to come back. So I thought maybe I'll go somewhere else and either hone my skills some more or let everybody else sort their issues out, and then I'll come back, see how it is. And that's kind of what I did. We were looking. My team and I were looking to get out of the league we were in with the Gen 4 on Fridays, and that's when I came to come run Thursday Night Thunder again. Because they wanted to run the Gen 4 car with me, but we really wanted open setup, but nobody was running that anymore. So I came over here just to see how things were, if things were better, like if it was a better fit for me than it was the last time I was here, and if I liked it and their schedules allowed it, I was going to bring the rest of my team over, but I don't think that the schedule allows it for them to be able to do that. So right now it's just me, but I feel like I fit in better on the track than I did before. So I do enjoy racing on the track with you guys a lot more than I did before.
That's good to hear. Yeah, well, I don't know if you heard, but SNS is changing to the Gen 6 car on Saturday night. So if you or your team is interested, that's going to be a lot of fun. They got a really cool schedule. Some tracks are going to be tough, but they have a really neat schedule. So if y'all are ever looking for something on Saturday night, of course it's not open setups. We've never ARCS has always kind of stood by the fixed setups. Even going back, to Xbox days, we always did the sliders as
Yeah,
we had then. But yes, Saturdays are going to be a lot of fun. So if you or any of your teams interested, definitely let us know. Obviously, we know Saturday's kind of tough because people are out, doing stuff or have other leagues. But it's definitely open if you or your team want to come race with us some.
yeah, I will definitely keep that in mind and run that by them. We're all really busy, so
Oh yeah,
Friday nights sometimes are even hard for us in our other league we run. Um, so if we can fit it in the schedule and we're bored or whatever, and we just want to sit there and race, then obviously that'll be a good place to go. If we don't feel like running officials anyway.
yeah. I haven't run an official race in months. I can't. I don't know. I just something about it. I just can't do it. I don't know. I guess I
Well,
have so much league racing that like I don't really have time to run
yeah,
officials. I really
I've
don't.
only done the Formula V and Draft Masters is the only officials I've been doing the last season and a half. So I know the feeling. I don't really enjoy any of the other officials right now.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to when you work all day, you come home and you have a league race. I mean ARCS runs pretty much 6 nights a week, so I'm pretty busy with that, and I just don't have time for officials. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, I try to stick to just one or two league nights a week to try to open the rest of the week up for if I want to run officials or just do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough to do officials. Sometimes, on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'll see what's out there, but then I'm like, none of this stuff even sounds fun to race. So then I don't race it. So, it is what it is. But so, well, nobody on Twitch has had any questions yet. again, this is a first podcast, so a lot of people still don't know about it, but we're gonna keep growing this thing. I'm gonna keep doing an episode every Monday. Next Monday we'll have my cousin Cody Pinnell on. We'll get to talk to him a little bit, but uh, just kind of tell us um, a little bit on your end, because again, this is my podcast. I didn't ask anybody I didn't ask anyone in ARCS. I started started the Discord, um, put it on Twitter, and I'm gonna keep pushing it. And but one of the main things is obviously just to get to know the drivers, so everyone can watch. I hope people watch this. If you don't, then I'll just kick you out of ARCS, and then you won't be able to race or see it anymore. But um, just kind of tell us, because I have my own opinions of ARCS, obviously, because being an owner and being the president for 3 years now. What are the differences uh, on your end from when we started to now? What are those differences? And I'm gonna go use the bathroom, but I'm still listening to you. So talk about what are those differences between when you started versus now, just so I can have an idea of like what are those differences.
Yeah, so when we first started, we were just a bunch of guys killing time during the pandemic. A lot of us were stuck home, not working. So we uh, we were just a bunch of guys hanging out, just having a good time, racing for fun. And over the years, 4 years now actually. Can't believe it's been 4 years now. But over the course of the last 4 years, we've gone from a just a small group of guys hanging out, killing time, having some fun racing on Xbox to we went from that to we almost were like a small family, like a racing family type deal. Uh, we all were there for each other when we all had different hard times in our lives. I had a few myself, and the guys that were there at the time, they stuck around and they were there for me and whatnot. And so we transitioned from a group of guys just hanging out to almost like a small, like a family or like a brotherhood. Uh, and then as more people came in, I still think that there is that family element with a lot of the OG guys. But with all of the new people that are in here, there's it's turned more into almost like a corporate family where like the OG guys are like the guys in the office, and all of the hundred and whatever other people that we've got in here are just all the people out on the shop floor type deal.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good way to put it. I mean, I checked, I think last week, and we have like 270 people in the ARCS Discord, and it's just
Wow.
wild. Like that's still to this day blows my mind, that we started with pretty much 10 people, and now we're sitting at 270 in our Discord. And I mean, obviously, a good probably 50% of those people don't actually race, on a week to week basis in ARCS, but they're still in the Discord. They're still watching what's going on. So it's crazy that just in those short, I mean, this is this April will be our 4th year anniversary. We started A squared in April of 2020. TNT was basically right after A squared started. And then, we've had several other leagues throughout the years, but, A squared and TNT were the first two leagues that we had almost 4 years ago now. So it's crazy to go from 10 people on a console game to 270 plus on iRacing. Um, it's just it's nuts. I never thought that it would get to that point, but I agree with you. I think sometimes when we were back on heat, we all were friends. We you know, and I still think that a lot of us are friends now, but it does seem like a different environment than when we started. But again, back then also we were all forced to stay home. We couldn't go out anywhere. You couldn't go to work. You couldn't even go get food hardly. So it's a different world too now that we've moved past the whole COVID pandemic. But still crazy to think that a group of 10 of us, and here we are closing in on 300 drivers in our Discord. It's just wild to think about.
Yeah, yeah, and we've gone through a lot. We've had a lot of fights, a lot of
Oh yeah.
a lot of loss. A lot of people left. A lot of people came back. Some people are actually not here with us anymore. I think about Arch, uh,
Yeah.
who always wanted to make it to jump to iRacing with us, and never he didn't get to have that opportunity. I think about him every once in a while.
Yeah, uh anytime I see a six car, he always used to run. Cuz he was he would swap between the 6 car and the 17 car back when we were still on heat because nobody ran the 6 or the 17. And yeah, it was always fun to race with him. And it's crazy, man, that to think that you know somebody that I never got to meet him in person, but 5 nights of the week I was talking to him on Xbox, and then you know uh, not here anymore. So we had a fundraiser race for him. We raised some money for his family. That kind of stuff is just seems like it doesn't really happen as much anymore. Um, and it's not just ARCS. It's HTL, ABN, even NSR with SKD. I'd love to get SKD on here because me and him have a lot that we could talk about between me and him. Some of the history we have. That'd be a damn good episode. But it seems like all the leagues are trying to grow and get bigger and better. And it's sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, this is not you know I mean, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish here? And it sometimes I do think back to those moments on Xbox, and with Arch and just some of the fun stuff we did on there. It's almost like, holy shit, like what are we doing? And I mean,
Yeah.
I know you probably had a little bit of that with NSR. I know you were kind of involved, kind of as I'm not sure if you were like an admin or a co-host or what your role was there, but yeah,
So I was a co-admin over there, and then it just got to be too much for me. So I stepped down from that and just decided to race. Like I would help SK out a little bit here and there if he needed an opinion on something or whatnot. And then when we got rid of the Gen 4 league, the other NASCAR league was the Gen 6 at the time, and just I was gonna run that, but we changed the date that we were gonna run it, and it's a day that I can't run anymore. So I'm still in there. I periodically will chime in, give my input on things here and there, but I don't really race in there anymore just because it went a direction that I wasn't interested in going, which
mhm,
it's no fault of anybody. It's just my personal preferences. Like they do late model stuff Thursdays, road racing on uh, Sunday and I think Monday, and then Gen 6 on Wednesday. And none of Wednesday is not really a good day for me, and the other three just aren't something that I'm interested in running.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, any. weekday league is tough, especially for people that have to wake up at 6 a.m. and go to work. I mean, it's hard to run. You know, like we have. On Mondays we or on Sunday nights we do obviously about to be A squared, but we had OST which ran the late model stocks. But they were somewhat shorter races, so it wasn't super late. But yeah, it's hard to run a Gen 6 league where you're running 50% of a full length race on a Wednesday or Thursday night. That's hard. I mean, even TNT for me, like especially last week because of all the cautions, like that was rough. Like that Friday was like I was dead tired at work, and I'm sure everybody felt
I
the
have
same
no
way.
idea how we didn't run out of time in that race.
Yeah, I don't. They have it set for like 4 or 5 hours. That's the only reason we didn't run out of time. But yeah, it's you know the days during the week it is very tough to that's like what we have our dirt series on Wednesday nights in ARCS, but it's a 30 lap feature. It's done by 9:15, 9:30 at the latest. You can still get into bed by 10 o'clock and still get 8 hours of sleep. But some of these
Yeah.
leagues that are trying, like HTL, runs their Cup Series on Monday nights and then runs their Truck Series on Tuesday nights, and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock before you're ever even close to being done with the race. And that's why because I was on a team in HTL on Monday nights, and I couldn't show up anymore. Like it was just too much for me. I mean, that's one of the things. Like I like racing, but if it's going to affect my mental health and my physical ability the next day, I'm out. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to bed at 9 p.m. and call it a night, and you know that is what it is. But everybody has. I mean, some people don't have to work. Some people don't have to go into work till noon or whatever. But most blue collar working people in America, they got to be up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and that's tough after running a 200 lap race at you know Michigan or
Yeah.
Moto Club or something.
Especially when you have a drive to get to work as well.
Exactly. I mean, if you got 30-minute drive and you got to be there at 6 a.m., you got to leave the house at 5:30. That means you got to wake up at 5. I mean, that's yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough for
I
everybody.
remember when we were still on Xbox, I was working where you're at now,
Yep.
and it's like an hour and 15 minutes from my house to there.
Yeah, that's wild. But
And there was one night I had to substitute for Jacket on Thursday Night Thunder. We did 200 laps at Charlotte that night, and I had to go to work the next day, and it sucked so bad.
yeah, it's awful. But all right, man. Well, we're closing in on almost an hour, so it was a good talk. Awesome
Yeah.
podcast. Thank you for being the first special guest.
The
Um,
first victim.
First victim. That's exactly. But it was a good talk and a good podcast, and we're gonna keep this thing going every Monday at 7. Now that Mazda Monday is running, we'll keep these things to about an hour. But appreciate you coming on. It was good to talk to you. Hopefully, um, we'll have we'll have more people, um, but at some point, we're gonna run out of people to talk to, so we'll have some people on for a second time, and we may talk about something non-racing. We may talk about news or world events or something, and just just talk. I mean, that's just what this podcast is about. Just me and somebody else, and I might, if I don't have a guest, I may just do an episode by myself. But this is my first one, so kind of learning as I go. But appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll see you this Thursday in TNT.
I plan on being there. Before we go, let's make this known to everybody watching. We do need to set up a 1v1 with Quiet. Uh, I've been kind of trying to coax him into it in Discord every once in a while, but he hasn't taken the bait.
Well, I can make it
Yeah.
happen. So we'll set that thing up, and that'll be. I'm sure everyone would love to watch a renewed rivalry of Quiet and Mayo on iRacing 1v1. Quiet, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but you've been called
Need
out
to
by both of
need to
us.
set up two wheels, one to set the car and one to set the track.
Yeah, there you go. We can spin the wheel, free cars, free tracks, and y'all can get 10 minutes of practice and then just go after it.
All right.
All right, well,
I look
appreciate
forward
you.
to it.
Yep, I'll let you leave the Discord, and then I will close out after you leave. So appreciate you being here.
Oh yeah.
See you, man. All right. Well, you get to see that box apparently because it won't go away. But that was our first episode of ARCS Behind the Driver. Next week we got my cousin Cody Pinnell. He will be joining us here in the studio, I guess. I don't know. It's not really a studio. It's just a bedroom. But we'll talk to Cody about everything, how he left ARCS a couple times, 2 or 3 times. Talk to him about some of his past success, and he's coming back, making a comeback. Paid his sponsorship for A Squared, so it'll be good to have old Cody back on the racetrack on Sunday night every once in a while. I don't think he's going to run very much, but he'll be around for some of those super speedway races. But appreciate y'all tuning in. Um, let me know on YouTube uh, if you want any, you know, if you want a guest. Uh, let me know. We'll get them on here. We'll talk to them. Trying to keep this thing, like I said, to about an hour, which was perfect tonight. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is something that I've been trying to do for 2 or 3 years now. So hopefully next week me and Cody will be able to shoot the shit and talk about some of his past issues with ARCs, and we'll get his opinion on some stuff as well. But thank you all for coming out and then tuning in and watching. We'll see y'all next Monday at 7 p.m. with me and Cody Pinnell. Thank you all for tuning in.